beef that everybody has between Notre Dame and Miami should be directed to being between Notre Dame and Alabama. And when you have a move like the committee made a week ago, which was clearly in an attempt to try to get Notre Dame and Miami as close to each other as they possibly could to make an eventual change, I thought that Alabama, despite not looking good, and BYU fans can sit there and say, well, why weren't we treated the same way? Well, your body of work wasn't what Alabama's body of work was week in and week out when it comes to the slate and the gauntlet of games. And so I don't have an issue with Alabama being in the playoff. Do I think they're playing great football right now? No. I think that's fairly obvious to most people that have watched Alabama. But this is also an Alabama team and an Alabama program that I think if they can get healthy and they can get some people back on the field, they're going to be able to field a much better product.
Yeah, fact of the matter is the SEC regular season champion went into that game as the 1 seed in the SEC. I will say this, the conference championship games, why play them? Why would Alabama be punished for going to play them with Notre Dame and Miami sitting at home when Alabama's in the bracket, in everybody's bracket before this weekend? They're in there. Everybody had Alabama in, and nobody was questioning Alabama as a playoff team until they played Georgia again. Why go to Atlanta and play these games anymore if you can be severely punished by losing badly, looking bad to a team you've already beaten on their field? It didn't make sense why people were mad about Alabama being in this thing.
Well, there's zero incentive listen, it's an honor and it's an accomplishment to put yourself in that position, and that should be cherished, and it should be something that all teams strive to do. But in the college football playoff all or none world that we're living in right now, there is zero incentive to play that game. Not only are you risking a loss, but you're risking a season-ending injury to somebody that could be a huge component to your roster. You're having to train that week in a manner in which people that are not playing are not training. And then, oh, by the way, it's not some chump opponent.
No.
Right? It's a rematch versus a team that you could make an argument. When Alabama went on the road to beat number 3 Georgia, it was one of the best, if not the best, road conference ranked wins of any team in college football.
Yeah.
This fall, but that's another one of the big questions here when it comes to what people want to term as being flawed or what have you. Is, do we just eliminate the conference championship game, or do we take the 2 highest ranked teams, regardless of conference, regardless of outcome, and we allow them to play in the conference championship game for a win and in scenario? Obviously a lot of discussion to be had there.
And listen, I understand the way Alabama looked, emphasized this, and it opened the door for people to say, well, we're just going to put Notre Dame and Miami in. The problem all along is twofold. One, this is all solved if the ACC had a better tiebreaker system. If they just put their highest ranked teams in there, if that was the way you decided the tie of the tied teams, the highest rated team goes in there. Miami likely wins that game. They're in there, and there's no James Madison, all due respect to them. But when you compare Miami and Notre Dame, everything is almost identical. It becomes the problem of that Tuesday night show where they've had Notre Dame ahead all along. When Miami beat them head-to-head, their strength of schedule, their strength of record, everything is almost identical. They have common opponents that they beat virtually the same. In fact, Miami had 3 of the 4. Miami beat them better than Notre Dame beat them. It's just it is either the tiebreaker or that show. I don't know where I put the biggest blame.
Well, number one, let's start off with the ACC for a second, because tiebreakers or not, they have nobody to blame but themselves. Every single time you had a team in the driver's seat in that league to take the next step, 1 week it was Georgia Tech, 1 week it was SMU, 1 week it was Pitt, 1 week it was Louisville, it was Miami, all right? they found a way to throw up all over themselves. So they went out and created this. So before you even get to, I think, a tiebreaker scenario, which I don't disagree with, I totally agree with you there, Jim. You got to acknowledge that, hey, ACC, you screwed it up. You screwed it up on the field, okay? And so that's what put you guys in this position. And I let's talk about the Notre Dame Miami thing for a second, because everything you just listed there is accurate. But if this committee were to have decided to ignore head to head with an on field result, to your point, with two teams that had multiple common opponents, the exact same record, and played each other, all right, you talk about creating chaos moving forward. You will destroy week 0 and week 1. It will be over. Nobody will play those games. Nobody will schedule those games. All right. So, and the on-field result has to matter. I don't care if it's in week 1 or if it's week 8. That's got to matter. And so I think the committee did the right thing there with Miami. And the problem that the committee has, Jim, is 8 weeks ago when they made the first release, right? And they've got Notre Dame 8 spots, or 5 or 6 weeks ago, 8 spots ahead of Miami, all right? And then that last month of the season, the two teams play almost identical to each other, including common opponents, where they go just roughshod over everybody. And all of a sudden, Miami starts inching up, but nothing's really changed from that initial ranking. This is what you thought Notre Dame was, and this is what you thought Miami was, regardless of head-to-head. Now you fast forward at 5-6 weeks, and head-to-head all of a sudden matters. That's tough for a lot of people to reconcile. And I get it. I understand it. But that's the problem with the Tuesday night show. That's the problem with revealing a ranking each and every week, is you subject yourself to scrutiny, and everybody's saying, what are we doing? How did you get to this point? And if you don't do that every single week, and you just come out at the very end and you say, hey, these are our 12 teams, you'd have a lot less scrutiny.
Absolute joke is what the Notre Dame folks, including their athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, said about that Tuesday night show. Shock and sadness. They're going to remain independent. Some people thought this was an attempt to try to force Notre Dame into a conference. And they opt out of going to the bowl game. I think most people said it was going to be the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Notre Dame and BYU, which would have been a great matchup, but it would have been a ratings bonanza for ESPN. And they sort of took a shot at ESPN saying, we're not going to be your ratings, cash cow if we're going to be left out of this thing. Somehow they believe ESPN and ABC's behind this, which – I know the optics is 5 SEC teams are in, and we'll have Joel Klatt on in the 11 o'clock hour today from Fox, and I'm sure we'll get into that with him. But Notre Dame has a long history of opting out from bowl games. And I've got no problem with this decision that they've made. If the players were already bought in on going to the playoffs, at one point yesterday morning, right before the show, they were minus 1,000 in the betting market to be in the playoffs. And Alabama was like minus 300, and Miami was not a long shot, but they were plus money to make the playoffs. So even the bettors in Vegas thought that Notre Dame was easily in the field. So I can only imagine the players and coaches. For them to opt out of the bowl, I got no problem with this. Notre Dame didn't play in a bowl game from 1925 to 1968 because they were absolute exhibitions and they didn't see a purpose in it. That was what the school's stance was. So this was going to be an absolute exhibition where other people were going to make money. I have no problem with Notre Dame backing out of this bowl game. What do you think?
If they want to opt out, opt out. I have no issue. I think it's a very, very emotional reaction that happened very, very quickly. Almost seemed a little premeditated, to be honest with you. But at the same time, Notre Dame can't walk around with this entitlement of having their cake and eating it too. They want one foot in a conference to bolster their schedule a little bit, but they really don't want to go all in. And they want to be catered to, and they want to be treated differently because they're Notre Dame. And the reality is we don't get to this decision if you win the Miami game. And now all of a sudden, the problem is resolved. But I think, I know this, ever since that collaboration with the ACC and Notre Dame came into existence, those ACC coaches aren't fond of it.
Yeah.
They were from the get go going, what are we doing here,
Yeah.
right? And so, but that's the world that we're living in right now in relationship to the Fighting Irish. And this time they were the team left out. And to be honest with you, Jim, and I don't mean this because it's going to sound very un-American, and you know what a patriot I am.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we need to stop treating Group of Five programs like they're on equal footing with Power Four teams. There is a reason why there are different levels of football, because there are different levels of talent. There are different levels of allocated resources and alumni backers and boosters and now NIL and, infrastructure, facilities, all of those sorts of things. It's not meant to be equal. And if we're going to sit here and talk all day long about getting the 12 best teams in the playoff, we don't have the 12 best teams in the playoff. And I'm not saying include the ACC champ. I'm saying you want to solve this thing, go take Notre Dame and then choose between Vanderbilt, Texas, and BYU.
Yeah.
Now you have 12 teams where you're looking at it and you're going, whoa. Because here's the deal. Look at what happened to Texas A&M. They drop without playing. If that move doesn't happen, they're not playing Miami. They're playing one of the Group of Fives. But because they drop, the two Group of Five opponents now move to Oregon and Ole Miss, and A&M's sitting there going, well, wait a minute. We got Miami. Whereas if you don't have the Group of Five element, we might end up having an Oregon, Texas, right? Or an Ole Miss Vanderbilt and a Texas A&M Miami. But instead, we're going to see at least one of the two matchups. It's going to be a rematch of a point differential of 35 points between Ole Miss and Tulane last time. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Group of Five teams and programs, and I've broadcasted a lot of their games over the years. But I think even the coaches will tell you, like, we're not built like those teams. Like if we were, we wouldn't be in this position that we're in right now.
I agree with you. We'll talk more about the system, what died over the weekend. There were several things that I believe died over the weekend or on life support. We'll talk about that coming up. But let's get into the actual field and sort of play this bracket out in our head, sort of have some fun projecting some games out and what some keys will be here. Tom Luginbill of ESPN, you'll see him on the ACC network as well, and always at ESPN.com and with the Under Armour All-Star Game, all the great stuff that Lugs does all year long, brought to you by our friends at Roback.com, where you can get great gifts this holiday season. Use our promo code TNR20, TNR20. Get those great gifts right there at Roback.com, 20% off with our promo code TNR20. All right, Lugs, Alabama-Oklahoma is going to play the Friday Night Lights game, 7 o'clock in Norman, Oklahoma, where Alabama's the 9 seed, Oklahoma's the 8 seed. It's a rematch of the game in Tuscaloosa where Alabama had 3 turnovers and just barely lost that game. And Alabama's beat up. We'll talk about Alabama in a second, but first Oklahoma. I want to remind people that in that game, I know Alabama's beat up and not 100%, but in that Oklahoma game where they pressured Ty Simpson from the moment he walked on the field until he walked off of it, they didn't have R. Mason Thomas that day, and he's their best pass rusher. And they got after Alabama that day. So for those that think, Alabama gets another bite at the apple, and it's going to be different this time because Alabama outgained them 400 and something yards to 200 and something yards, Oklahoma's coming back with that same pass rush. Oh, and by the way, you get R. Mason Thomas too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Alabama's going to get LT Overton back.
You hope so, yeah.
Yeah, and so that would, maybe X that out a little bit. No, but you're right. I mean, that game was completely dominated by Alabama, but Alabama turned the ball over 3 times, and Oklahoma didn't turn it over. They completely shut down John Mateer. There was a lot of self-inflicted wounds in that game, aside from just turnovers. Drop balls continue to plague this Alabama team. Dropped 2 touchdowns in the game the other night. I think that these are 2 teams that are kind of eerily similar to each other in terms of trying to navigate around where their deficiencies are. They can't run the football consistently. The quarterback play as the season is worn down has become less and less consistent, less and less productive. And in Alabama's case, they've got to come up with a way of getting the ball downfield, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, the other night, they have no ability to get the ball vertical, get the ball into the intermediate zones. I felt like Ty Simpson was check down Charlie the other day when he had the opportunity to drop back and get the ball out clean. I don't know if that's going to cut it against Oklahoma. I mean, there's going to have to be some other wrinkles here, and I think the people around Ty Simpson are going to have to step up and make some plays when counted upon. Make a play on a ball, don't drop it. Right, put yourself in position to be a playmaker, and then hopefully you help your quarterback out. But the quarterback's got to help himself out too. Jim, I'm watching Ty Simpson, and I see a guy that's not confident. I see a guy that looks like he's questioning his surroundings. He's not seeing it. And I don't know how to explain it, because you've gone from a guy that was literally a completion machine at all three levels of the defense for a span of 6-7 weeks. And then everything has started to slowly kind of deteriorate. But Oklahoma's had the same issue with John Mateer.
Yeah. Well, we all know about the Mateer thumb injury. Yeah. I think when the season is done, it's my belief we will find out something physically is going on with Ty Simpson that may have started in that twisting sack fumble at Missouri, where he came off, he was slow getting up. And then since then, it has impacted his ability to throw down the field the same way he was pre-Missouri.
It's a little bit like Garrett Nussmeier, isn't it? Something's just off.
Yeah.
Right now, we knew about the oblique deal with Garrett and this and that, but like something just isn't right. And I believe and I hope he can get back to some full health. But I agree with you, Jim. I think there's some underlying things that are happening with him.
Yeah. But everybody plays hurt. But Alabama, when they played on Saturday against Georgia, where everybody's kicking them in the teeth for their lack of ability to play good offensive football against one of the best defenses in the country. Parker Brailsford played that game, and he's played the last few games one-legged. And Brown and I talked about it at the game. The wrapping on one of his ankles extends out this far, the size, Lugs, of a volleyball. That's the wrapping of one ankle.
It looks like a bag of ice is wrapped around his ankle.
That's what he looks like. And that's what he's playing on, because he's so important. But also you've got Cam Dewberry, your starting left guard, didn't play in that game. Josh Cuevas, your starting tight end, is out for that game. You did not have Jam Miller, your starting running back. Daniel Hill got banged up in that game, but continued to play through it. Vandermark, who I think was in there for Dewberry, got banged up and played through an injury there. I think Ty's hurt as well. If you can get healthy before you play on December the 19th on Friday night, then it's a different looking team. I think you go back to that stretch of beating 4 ranked teams. If you can't get healthy and you're putting that same team on the field that you put on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a fight to move the football against Oklahoma.
Could not agree with you more. And that's why, and again, this is also why it is so difficult if you do make the college football playoff field. This gap, this lull here between now and the 19th and the 20th, not only do you have to get yourself back to full health, but you better hope you sustain it.
Yeah.
Because what it's going to take to run that gauntlet each and every week, and luck's a part of that, right? I mean, that's a part of every championship run. But health is critical, particularly when it affects the quarterback. Now, it doesn't impact a team like an Ohio State or an Indiana or a Georgia or an Alabama, maybe an Oklahoma and A&M, right now at Texas Tech, because of their overall top to bottom depth, like it's going to impact a Tulane or a JMU in the same regard.
Now, I think Alabama can beat them, because I know the score was 28-7, but one of those was a block punt, which, by the way, Kirby Smart called his shot on College Game Day. And even must have talked about it in the meetings, because Fowler was setting up, watched the special teams, and then it blocked as Fowler setting it up. That's a 21-yard drive for a touchdown. And then the other one, late in that game, it's 4th and 2 on your own 12, Lugs. And that's why I was arguing you can't really look at the scoreboard if you're the committee and judging a blowout here. This is Kalen DeBoer sitting there going, it's 4th and 2 on the 12, and I'm choosing to play to try to win the SEC championship game instead of cosmetically work the scoreboard to make the college football playoffs. And he said, damn with the cosmetics, let's try to win the championship, and went for it on 4th and 2. Your thoughts on that? And that sort of gave him a 12-yard touchdown drive as well.
Well, it absolutely did. And remember, the interception in the red zone was a tipped ball as well.
Yeah.
From Alabama early on in that game in the first quarter. So just a lot of things didn't go well. And then, they couldn't compensate by catching the ball when they had some throws in the end zone and would have been touchdowns. I totally agree that I think Kalen DeBoer wasn't worried about how bad the final score looked. He's actually trying to go out and win. That's his job. Your job's not to sit there and go, okay, well, let's not make this look too bad. Because to be honest with you, I think if you're going to do that, it's going to backfire on you at some point. But the line of scrimmage, the line to gain, where they're at on the field, I get the criticism. But by the way, he had an open target on the out route. He airmailed it.
Yeah.
If he just plays pitch and catch, he completes it, and it's a fresh set of downs. And again, Ty missed.
Yeah. I think I think it was Daniel Hill back out of the backfield to the left side too, but he looked that way first. That's where the play was. But Daniel and him had not connected on a couple of throws throughout the day. Jim, obviously the better receiver coming out of the backfield. All right, other games in the first round. You mentioned 11 o'clock on that Saturday, Miami and Texas A&M as they play there. This Miami team, I think Notre Dame was good enough to win a national championship if they'd gotten in. People are, they may scoff at this Miami team, but this Miami team has talent on both sides of the ball. They could play. This will be a heck of a football game. I think it's the best game in round one. I put it over the Alabama-Oklahoma game as far as excitement level to watch this game. You're going to get two offenses that can fly, but also you're going to get some hard-hitting defensive play in this game.
You probably have two of the top 3 to 5 offensive lines in all of college football in this game, especially Miami. I think you're going to have two teams that can run the football. They're going to be physical at the point of attack, athletically on the perimeter. We know Miami's got guys. Texas A&M has guys. The only issue that Miami has had, and the reason why they're in this position, is when they've lost, they've turned the ball over. When they haven't turned the ball over, they have been a dominant force on the field. And it cost them the LSU and the SMU game as a direct reflection of turnovers, most notably from Carson Beck. And then in the last 4 weeks of the season, he goes on an absolute tear, and in Miami gets corrected. The guy you got to pay attention to in this game is the true freshman Malachi Toney for Miami. He is Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
And an absolute problem to deal with because they use him. He's thrown touchdown passes. He's caught touchdown passes. He's rushed for touchdown passes. He's a return guy. He's the guy that you have to take away in that offense and force Carson Beck to go elsewhere, because for a true freshman, that kid is one of the most mature young players I've seen in college football for a long time. And if you're just watching Miami play, you're saying there's no way that kid's a freshman.
And, of course, the next game is Tulane at Ole Miss. And the rematch you were talking about, the night game, is James Madison at Oregon, where Oregon is a 3-touchdown favorite in that contest. So my question to you, Lugs, as we move out through the bracket here, Roback.com, promo code TNR20, TNR20, Roback.com, bringing you Monday Morning Live today with ESPN's Tom Luginbill. Of the first-round winners, who's got the best chance to make it to the semifinals through that next round of games? Alabama, Oklahoma, the winner gets Indiana in the Rose Bowl. More on Indiana in a second. They're the number 1 seed and Big Ten champion. The James Madison, Oregon winner gets Texas Tech in the Orange. Miami, Texas A&M winner gets Ohio State in the Cotton on December 31st. And the Tulane, Ole Miss winner gets Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Of the guys that have to play the first round games and then move to the bowl sites, who's got the better chance of making it through to the semifinals, upsetting some of these bye teams. Remember, last year the bye teams were not very good. Now, that was, I think, sort of sugar-coated by the fact that we just mandated conference champions get in there. And this year we've got the true top 4 teams with the byes. I'm not sure the bye will impact the teams as much as they did last year, but it's the first time we've done it this way, so we'll wait and see. So who do you have that has the best chance of beating one of the top 4 seeds?
I would probably say Oregon, and the reason why I say that is Texas Tech has as phenomenal of a job as they've done, and I think they're a legitimate title contender. They haven't played a team like Oregon, a team that can just flat out go on the field and go up and down the field and light you up with speed and explosiveness, and at the same time be physical and be a tough football team up front on both sides of the ball. Now, and I've got the Oregon JMU game on ESPN radio, so I'm looking forward to getting some eyes on both of those teams in person. But I would love to see how Texas Tech would match up against Oregon. That's the one I'd look forward to the most.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm looking at those first round games, if I'm Indiana and Ohio State, who are the 1 and 2 seeds, they're supposed to have the easier games.
Yeah.
And I know Alabama and Oklahoma are offensively challenged right now, but they will carry a little bit of that Penn State, Ohio State feel into that Indiana game, and then Miami and Texas A&M will bring all sorts of offense and speed into that Ohio State game. I think if I was Indiana or Ohio State, I'd rather have Texas Tech's draw, to be honest with you.
I don't disagree with you. Listen, the teams that and I don't want to take away from Texas Tech, 'cause I think they're really, really good.
I do too.
But when it just comes to bloodying your nose, A&M and Miami at the point of attack, Indiana and Ohio State at the point of attack are just so big and physical and deep. That would be concerning. And I agree that I think you're dealing with more speed and edge rushers and terrific linebacker play with Texas Tech than you're just dealing with, guys that are going to throw you around and ragdoll you.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think you and I are on the same page there. And I think the other component to this too is, this is uncharted waters for Texas Tech, right? To some degree, you sit there and you look at this and you say, okay, how do you handle the moment? How do you handle all the hoopla, all of the distractions, and what Nick Saban used to call clutter around this time of year when you're trying to prepare to win a game and then win the next one and then win the next one? I mean, it could be very easy for this program to get caught up in all of this. And how could you blame them? I mean, what a remarkable season off of an off season where you were pointing to them and you're saying, all right, they've invested all this money. You better not screw it up. And they didn't. They answered the toll. And now they're on the biggest platform they've been on in maybe ever.
Tom Luginbill with us for a few more moments as we roll through the final episode of Monday Morning Live of this season. We've done it 3 years now. Is that correct? 3 years of Monday Morning Live?
3 years in a row.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. I enjoy talking football with you anytime, but especially on these early Monday mornings. I will not miss the 5 a.m. alarm, but I will enjoy. I will miss talking to you. So we look forward to the playoffs coming up. That'll be great. This past weekend, I want to ask you if some things died. The first thing I want to ask you is, did the bowl system as we know it, die this past weekend? Because Notre Dame opts out. Iowa State and Kansas State, who were bowl eligible, opted out and took $500,000 fines and still opted out. And then to start filling the spaces, we rolled through Auburn and Baylor and UCF, Florida State, Rutgers, Temple, and Kansas, all saying no thank you to a bowl game. Finally, 5-7 App State said they would fill the 82nd and final bowl slot in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Southern. So do you think the bowl system as we know it died over the weekend?
If it's not dead, it's dying on the vine and shriveling away quickly. And it's unfortunate, but the era that we're in right now, when you allow opt-outs, when you're no longer looking at a bowl invitation as a reward and as something that you cherish and that you strive for, if a 5-7 team is getting asked to play in a bowl game because nobody else wants to, and that 5-7 team says no, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
And Mark Richt and myself, we work together every weekend, and we've had so many conversations about this. And we were talking about, okay, well, how do you salvage the bowl games, right? Whether it's the Boca Raton Bowl or the Cure Bowl or all of these different bowl games. Well, in order to include them, I think really one of the only ways to do it is to get to a 32-team playoff and have the bowl games be a part of each round, and then play your way into it, and then play your way through it. And now all of a sudden you won't have the opt-outs, right? You will likely have full participation and the full knowledge that if you happen to play, in the Birmingham Bowl in the first round of the playoff and you win that, you get a chance to play again, but you at least keep that bowl structure somewhat important because it's tied to advancement.
Yeah.
And but without that, I don't know how this thing survives.
I've told this story many years on the round table and on the next round, but that was my plan back in the 1970s as a kid, was to use the bowl system as a playoff and work your way through it. And there are many reasons I don't think that would happen now as an adult because of the on-campus games. We don't want to lose the on-campus games. In fact, as we go to 16 next year, I think the reason we want to go to 16 is so that Indiana, Texas Tech, Ohio State, and Georgia this year would have an on-campus playoff game. They deserve it. They're the top 4 teams, and they're not getting an on-campus playoff game. So I don't know about the bowls moving forward. Maybe a very condensed version of the non-playoff bowls. Obviously, we're going to keep the big ones in the rose, the orange, the cotton, and the sugar, the Fiesta and the peach, because they're a big part of the playoffs. We're going to keep those. But maybe the citrus and what used to be the tangerine, the sun, some of those, we just pare it down a little bit where there's just a few teams that really are truly like they used to be, where it's a reward for good seasons. And you go through the process of, a bowl invitation, and there's no conference tie-in. It's really an invitation on who's going to bring a good crowd, who wants to be there, and all of that. That's the way it used to be. It wasn't that the third-place team in the SEC went. It was, the Sugar Bowl's got a great relationship with Bear Bryant, and those Alabama fans are going to travel, so boom, let's invite Alabama even before the Auburn game.
Well, listen, I can tell you there's a lot of validity to that, because before we expanded to 12, there were many seasons on my ABC crew with Dave Pash and Dusty Dvorak and Greg McElroy before that, where we had the Citrus Bowl. Right? All right. And the Citrus Bowl, after the game was played, you'd look at the ratings afterwards, and it outrated 3 of the 6 New Year's 6 games.
Yep.
Right. The one year we had Michigan and Alabama. Well, let me tell you something. That, like you said, without there being a strict tie-in where you're relying on the right teams falling in place through luck, you basically make it an invitation. You say, we're making our bowl game, these 2 teams, to make it the biggest bowl game it can possibly be.
That's right. Give it back to those great community guys who used to they still show up wearing their blazers, but in the old days, you were there lobbying, trying to convince that school to choose your town to come play, and now instead of getting placed by the conference. Do you think conference championship games died this weekend, or did Alabama getting in keep them alive?
Oh man, that is such a good question. I don't like that we've gotten to a point where we are diminishing the accomplishment.
Yep.
I don't like that. I mean, everybody's goals every single year to win the conference, but now there's an asterisk by it, but that means we have to play an extra game.
Yep.
So now we've put ourselves in jeopardy. Now, right now, 2 of the last 3 times we've seen this occur, the loser got in. The one who didn't, obviously, is BYU. SMU did a year ago, losing to Clemson, and obviously we just saw Alabama included. Unless you make some type of rule or some type of bylaw that says if you make the game and you don't win it, it will not preclude you from being in the college football playoff.
Yeah. In all fairness, BYU was not in before they played their game.
Correct.
So they didn't fall
Correct.
out. They did drop in the ratings, but they did not.
Yeah.
They did not fall out. The last one of did it die this weekend? Do you think the selection committee died this weekend? Are we going to? I mean, just for clerical reasons, so people understand, we do not have a bowl format. Excuse me. We do not have a playoff format agreed to for 2026 yet. That decision is coming late January. We passed the deadline because we couldn't agree on it from December 1st. Now, I think it's January 23rd, the next deadline. And there is going to be a lot of discussion about how we're going to do the playoffs moving forward, because the SEC was staring at possibly having their number one regular season seed team being out of this thing. They're in, but that was a real possibility. The ACC, a big player in this, was staring at having 0 teams in this, but Miami got in. And Notre Dame, who carries the same amount of vote as the Big 12 and the ACC, is left out. And so those 3 negotiating parts with the Big 10 and the Big 12 are there at the table, and they've got to decide a playoff moving forward. And I know the Big 10 has been pushing big on automatic bids, and the SEC's been pushing for, let's go 16 teams, just the best 16 teams. We're going to meet somewhere and going to come up with a format. And I wonder if a committee is going to be part of this, or are we going to have, like the NFL, a way to play your way into the playoffs only, or are we just going to go back to the BCS and seed this? How would you like to see it?
I'd like to see everybody play their way into it.
Yeah.
And let's settle the whole thing on the field and then figure out how we'll seed it and where everybody will be slotted. Listen, from an optics standpoint, I think the committee's got a big problem on their hands. Their communication and their public response to scrutiny or questions every Tuesday night has been really, really poor.
Yes.
And it's leading to distrust. Nobody understands it. I don't think Hunter Yurachek has been the voice that the committee was hoping he would be, in terms of plainly and clearly giving coherent answers to some really pressing, legitimate questions. And not only do we need to, I think, look at the structure of the College Football Playoff Committee in terms of reviving it maybe in a different way, but I do think we have to, and going back to our Group of 5 discussion, do we start to say, okay, we include you, Group of 5, but only if you're ranked within the top 15 or 12 or something where you've made it impossible for us not to include you.
That's right.
Right? Because that's not where we're at right now.
Nope.
And so, I do think there's some tweaks that could be made there. But to answer your question, I would love to see a play-in.
Yeah. And I believe that's what we will see. I think we'll have 4 automatic SEC, 4 Big 10 automatics, 2 Big 12, 2 ACC. That gets you to 12. Notre Dame, Pete Bavacqua has even said, if we're in the top 12, I've been told we're guaranteed starting next year. So I think that's 13. And then I think we'll keep 3 wild cards. And that would include a Group of 5 if you're in the top 16 in the rankings or the computers, whatever we're using to decide. Yeah. And then the 2 that are left out, a 5th place in the Big 10 or the SEC, or the 3rd place in the ACC or Big 12. That's where we're headed, I believe. We'll see how it works out. Final thoughts before we get out of here. And it's not SEC related. It's Big 10 related. Indiana's the Big 10 champion. It's their first it's their first Big 10 championship since 1967. It's their first outright Big 10 championship since 1945. In a 26-game stretch, and I know they intentionally dodge major out-of-conference games, but in a 26-game stretch, they are 24-2, and they look like a national championship contender. I didn't believe in them last year. I believe in them this year, though they have not been tested week after week after week like some SEC teams are tested and others. But this Indiana story is pretty amazing because it is one of the worst programs in college football history in my lifetime, and they're 24-2 in their last 26 games. I don't care who they're playing.
We're not even talking about being 24-2 and narrowly escaping. We're talking about being dominant.
Yes.
Against who they are playing. And by the way, to your scheduling point, Notre Dame, maybe take a page out of Indiana's playbook.
Yeah.
Right? That's the other thing in all of this. If the committee's not going to hurt you for doing it, why would you not do it?
Well, right? I believe on Notre Dame, I do believe that the competition they played near the end of the year did not compare to what Miami and especially to the SEC teams. But even Miami, Miami's losses in the middle of the year were to a couple 8-4 Louisville and SMU teams, which I think put to shame some of the games Notre Dame was playing down the stretch.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair too. And then when you look at the common opponents, Miami had the edge there, particularly against Pitt. And then you go ask Pat Narduzzi, he'll tell you. He goes, that team was the team that got after us, pointing to Miami. And he had just played Miami and Notre Dame.
USC is by far the best Notre Dame win. All that stuff around it, I do not think helped them at all. But back to the scheduling thing in Indiana,
Listen, in Indiana right now is the model of what this sport has become and what this sport is capable of if all of the stars align, right?
Yes.
And that, what I mean by that is you have to hire the right coach. That coach has to hire the right staff. The alignment from the president and the board of trustees and the AD and down to the coach have to be all in on pushing their chips to the center of the table. Don't tell me about basketball. Football is going to run this university. It's what Clemson did a couple of years in to Dabo Swinney's tenure. So now you get all of that right. Then from a player evaluation standpoint and a resources and infrastructure standpoint, you are literally can compete with anybody you want, but the choices that they made to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden, poof, flip this thing, the guy has nailed it. I mean, he's absolutely nailed it. It goes to show you when you nail that part of it, because I think Florida State's a great example on the opposite end of this spectrum, because Florida State has missed so badly in so many areas because they've become so portal-centric. But what started this whole thing for Indiana is they got the quarterback position right, Jim.
That's right.
And it started with Curtis Rourke, then it moves on to Fernando Mendoza, who is just an absolute difference maker. And then once you get that right, all of the other pieces of the puzzle can fall into place. But I would love to have the opportunity that they would be an unbelievable, it wouldn't happen, but it would be an unbelievable inside the program dissection of how they've done this, because it would be the blueprint for every team in America.
All right, Tom Luginbill. I'll leave you with this thought, Lugs. The team that has let's see, this is our second year of the 12-team playoff, right?
Yeah.
The team that has won the 12-team playoff every year lost their last game before they played in the 12-team playoffs. And let's see, Ole Miss won theirs, Tulane won theirs, A&M lost theirs. Yeah. Miami won theirs, Oregon, James Madison, Oklahoma won theirs. Oh, Alabama lost theirs. So Alabama and A&M, one of them keeps the streak alive. Ohio State, remember, lost Michigan, no Big Ten championship game, and then ran the table. We'll see if Alabama or A&M can do it this year. Lugs, man, you're fantastic. Have a great one, man.
Guys, Jim, appreciate you and the guys so much. It's been a great year. Enjoy the holiday season, and Merry Christmas to y'all.
Merry Christmas to you, man. We'll see you in the new year. That's Tom Luginbill, ESPN. The next round, guys, are up here in about 15.